Hey guys, this is Uber Roger, and today what I'm going to talk about is I'm receiving a lot of questions and comments about people asking me if they should switch to Select, or people that have switched to Select asking me what areas to work, what's busier, where to go to, tips and tricks. So this is my 90-day review of Uber Select. Now I have my profile set up as Uber X and Select on one phone, and I have a Uber Select only phone. So I'm going to tell you guys what I do and how I make the money. Now the big thing about it, just like I said on the first review, is going to be volume and patience. You're not going to receive the same amount of volume as you receive on Uber X. First of all, just prepare to wait, prepare to be there for a while. Don't be surprised if you're sitting there for an hour without a call. A lot of drivers that switch, they think there's something wrong with their phone, with their account. No, it's not that. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the volume of customer request versus the volume of drivers that are out there. There's a lot of cities that are very crowded with Uber Select drivers, and that those cities have demand, but not as much demand like to give everybody a ride. All right, I'm getting a call, but I'm gonna ignore that. So the way that works is what you really have to do for Uber Select is, first of all, is switch. By switch, I mean be prepared to take Uber X rides. The only way you're gonna survive, you're gonna make it, is taking some Uber X rides. Now, I'm gonna tell you what my biggest day was, and I'm gonna show you guys, and that way you guys could see. Okay guys, so this was last Saturday. This was 50% Uber Select trips, and the other part were Uber X trips. As you see, the surge wasn't that much because I didn't take that many Uber X rides, because I was getting a lot of volume on Uber Select, which is unusual, and $55 for gas. 15 trips, 10 hours and 56 minutes, almost 11 hours. I'll zoom out real fast. You can see the trips. The surging ones are Uber X. And there's a few that were Uber X that weren't Select, but the rest are Select. The big numbers are Select. That was an unusual busy day. As you see, the Uber fee is $105. So I'm going to show you another day that's mostly Uber X with a little bit of Uber Select. Okay guys, this is Friday, yesterday. As you see, the biggest amount of money is the surge bringing in. The surge is huge because I was taking a lot of Uber X surging rides because it was busy with Uber X. So I switched over to Uber X and collected all the surge. So there's the fare. As you see, my Uber fee is less, $69 versus $100 on the other one, because Uber X rides are less. They take away less. It's like 20%. If you do Uber X, $55 for gas again. So it would have been like $269. 11 trips, 9 hours, 42 minutes. As we zoom out, you're going to see all my trips were surge, besides this 11-14 trip, which was Uber Select. And this trip, which was at 305, that was a Uber X on my way home. So that doesn't qualify for any surge or any incentives. But I was calling it a night, so I just took that ride to go home. Okay. Alright guys, just so we could avoid any other any people thinking that this is just on a Friday or Saturday, I was just gonna throw this one in there. This was Wednesday that just passed. I was doing about as you see, 10 hours and 53 minutes. I got mostly Uber Select, and well, I did both Uber Select and X on this day. I started my day good with the $80 Uber Select trip, and that was about 32 miles, I believe. So as you see, this is a mixture of both Uber X and Uber Select. and this is how many hours, 10 trips on Wednesday. I've had days where I've only taken about 4 Uber Select rides. I've taken about 8 Uber X rides, and I had a good day. Now, the big thing about taking Uber X rides, obviously it doesn't pay as much as Uber Select, but you need the volume, especially when it's surging. What happens is that in different cities, at different events, people are used to Uber X. They rarely click on Uber Select unless somebody told them about it, or they tried it once, or they did it on accident, and then they just kept doing it. Now, this is what I do. I have one phone on Uber X and Uber Select, right? I'm constantly checking on the volume on that phone to see if the surge goes up on Uber X. When the surge goes up on Uber X, then I switch to that phone. I have another phone that's Uber Select only. On that phone, I have to log that one off when I'm going to log into the Uber X Uber Select phone. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is that you have to be ready to switch. You have to be open. I know drivers that are out there. I've met drivers that do Select that sit there for 4 hours, 3 hours at a time without a call. That's not gonna make you money. I mean, there's people that want to do it their own way, and that's good for them, but I've been doing this for 90 days, and I'm gonna tell you what I've realized doing this, right? So the other thing, what's important, you want to do Uber Select, great. The next question is, are you gonna do it full time? Because if you do it part-time, I would say it's not worth it. You know why? Because you're gonna have to be very lucky to make a decent amount of money if you do it part-time. Because what you have to do for Uber Select, you have to do volume. You have to put in a lot of hours to get 3, 4, 5 calls. The most calls I've gotten in one day, and that was on a Friday night last week, I got 8 Uber Select calls, 7 or 8 Uber Select calls, and about 5 Uber X calls. So that was a pretty big day for Select, and I talked to other drivers and they were really surprised, because typically on a busy day they'll get about 4 Uber Select calls, and some drivers, they literally just park and wait for 4 calls in 10 hours and 8 hours. So my thing is that if you do this part-time and you don't get lucky, let's say you're working 4 hours, and if in those 4 hours you only get 1 call, and if that 1 call only makes you about $20, is it worth your 4 hours? Probably not. But if you do it full time, and in 4 hours you make $20, and in the next 4 hours you make 160, 170, now you made 210 in 8 hours. Is that worth it? Yeah, probably. So that's why I'm gonna say that it's not worth it to do it part-time. Okay, next thing, different areas have different volumes, but there's no guaranteed areas. So when somebody asks me what area I should go to, I can't answer that question because I don't even know myself, even though I've been doing this. Now, what you have to do is think outside the box, number one. Number two is stay informed. Know what's going on around your city. Know your type of customers in different cities. The only way you're gonna know, honestly, is practice. Keep trying it. If that doesn't work, try something different. Now, the other thing, I used to do a lot of Uber X rides at LAX. You constantly get volume. I mean, sometimes the queue is full, but even then, 20 minutes later, you get a call. The call could take you to El Segundo, which is about 2 miles, or it could take you to Anaheim, which is 40 miles. So Uber Select at LAX is capped. By capped, I don't mean that you're never ever gonna get a call, but I can tell you this: there's so many. They only limit 15 Uber Select cars on the queue for LAX. Let me tell you that queue is always full. So don't count on LAX if you want to do Uber Select. If you want to do Uber X, yeah, LAX is a good area. If you want to do Uber Select, don't do it. I know drivers. I've talked to a lot of drivers. There's drivers that have sat out there for 8 hours. They got one call in 8 hours and they made $10. It's not worth it. What you need is volume. Now, once again, if you're gonna do Uber full-time, Uber Select full-time, go all in on it. Explore your areas, figure out a system. I can't give you the perfect recipe because it's just all over the place. Some drivers that I have a group that I talk to, and some drivers on the same exact day, the same exact area that we work, one makes double than the other. So I already showed you guys a quick glance of how much I made on one day, just to give an example of how many hours I put in to make that amount of money. And keep in mind that I also have my gas deducted from my fuel card, so the payout usually reflects my payout after my gas expenses. And sometimes my gas expenses are delayed for like 2 or 3 days, so sometimes I'll get a gas expense of like $100 in one day. So let me know what you guys think in the comments and subscribe. Thank you guys. Have a good night.